the facilities where 20,000 plus barrels of uranium and plutonium are stored. And there's already been nuclear testing all over that area, so it is putting a lot of isotopes into the atmosphere that had been bound up in the soil and the plants for 60-plus years of ongoing testing. But the good news is the winds changed directions away from the facility in the last few hours. And so keep your fingers crossed because we are all downwind. I'm right here in Texas. And we're already undoubtedly, if you look at the winds, it's coming right into Austin, right into where I live. And I saw a report in the major news, just last 2 weeks ago, that the average person in tests that scientists did in Seattle are getting 5 hot particles a day. That means particles, not just background radiation, but actually highly radioactive particles, different isotopes, but uranium, plutonium, strontium, cesium, cesium, blowing over here, and that people on the East Coast are getting as many as 5 hot particles a day in your mouth, in your nose, into your lungs. And, I mean, it is just, but Chernobyl, admittedly, even the UN and EU admits they estimate 1 million people have died from complications from Chernobyl in 1986, and this is much bigger than that. So I love my children, and I can't just sit here and, let them die at 25 of lung cancer. If Los Alamos starts burning, I'm going to have to fly my children probably to Canada. I mean, if it gets into those 20,000 barrels, we're going to have to evacuate. And the government's not going to tell you to evacuate, folks, just like with the dust on 9/11. But I will evacuate my family, okay, if it gets to those barrels. You know what I'm going to do? A woman and the kids and the dogs and me. I'm going to just go ahead and get into this whole Agenda 21 right now, and I've got to do whole 3-hour broadcast on this in the near future because we've been covering it for 16 years I've been on air. They set up Agenda 21 in 92 at the big Earth Conference headed up by Maurice Strong. You can pull up the video online. You can pull up the quotes where he said, a post-industrial America, it is our job to destroy the West and destroy industrial society, reduce the world population by at least 80%. Jesse Ventura's his global warming fraud show, and the first season was really good and exposed all that. But I'm just glad this information is becoming mainline. But you need to understand that's where the standardized zoning is. Whether you're in England or Australia or Germany or the U.S., it's the same stuff. Formula One's coming into Austin. They're going to pay for it with taxpayer money. But then the companies agreed, which then sets the precedent, to pay all these carbon offsets to private companies. I mean, it's just a total scam. And Al Gore's the head of one company. The Rothschilds are the head of the biggest. But President Obama's Executive Order 13575, again, we talked about this a few weeks ago, and they're like, oh, rural councils. And it's got the Department of Defense on it, Homeland Security. And they already had this covertly set up, and they've sent out Homeland Security at events. I've seen it in the Associated Press, and they get the farmers there to talk to them about Al-Qaeda. And once they get there, it's like, is someone growing marijuana? Are there illegal guns in the area? Help us watch your neighbors. I mean, it's so creepy. And they know the Midwest, the bitter clingers, as Obama called them, clinging to their guns and their Bibles, are the biggest enemy of the establishment. And plus, the farmers in the East and the Amish and the folks in the West, they're targeting them everywhere. But the Midwest is really where it's happening. And if you just joined us, I read earlier where the Army Corps of Engineers knowingly, I mean, there's science to this, and working and giving orders to the big reservoir dam operators in their plan with record rain in many of these areas that they list that you're now seeing flooded, with the reservoirs already full, with the record snowmelt about to come in, and they just waited until it was cresting the dams and released it. And it's being called a false flag. And I totally agree. And now the Army Corps is in there trying to demand that people be forced to sell in expanding floodplains. And, of course, FEMA makes you buy flood insurance from them now. They control the consortium. That started after Katrina. I know a lot of folks live on the lake, but even in hilltop houses, 200, 300 feet above the lake. And, these areas have never been underwater in modern times. And then they're like, well, you got to pay extra stuff now. It's just like Obama saying you've got to buy insurance. It's just a scam. They just order you as a form of taxation to the private corporate interest. Let's go to this Fox News clip. And again, if Fox was more like this all the time, I'd support them. It shows a real war inside the elite covering what the rural affairs agenda and this new council really does. Here it is.
You'll find that they've also asked for the right to imprison farmers who wouldn't keep books as prescribed by the federal government. The Secretary of Agriculture asked for the right to seize farms through condemnation and resell them to other individuals. And contained in that same program was a provision that would have allowed the federal government to remove 2 million farmers from the soil.
If you live in the heartland of America, you have to listen up. While the nation was distracted with the Anthony Weiner drama, President Obama signed an executive order that will seize greater power over food, fiber, and energy in our vast countryside areas. The president created the White House Rural Council to, quote, make sure we're working across government to strengthen rural communities and promote economic growth. Sounds great, but get this. The council involves a long list of the most powerful people in America. Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner, the Defense Secretary's on it, Attorney General Eric Holder, even the head of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano. Why would Homeland Security be involved in exerting power and influence over the heartland? Why would the Defense Department be involved in promoting economic growth? The plan calls for the federal government to control almost every aspect of rural America. It will also, quote, identify and facilitate economic opportunities associated with energy development, outdoor recreation, and other conservation-related activities. Really? When did hunting and fishing become associated with conservation-related activities? And by the way, what does that mean?
And he goes on and calls it a new world order. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Ronald Reagan, by the way, at the first. They had this plan in '64. And it's like something out of Stalinist Russia. You can't make this stuff up. It's Agenda 21. We were able to get a hold of Webster Tarpley earlier this morning. The phones are down now, but if Jaron keeps trying, sometimes we're able to get through to the peace area of Libya, where the Nobel Prize winner Obama, under UN orders, is killing people en masse and preparing a giant ground invasion as part of the peace. They've also started in Somalia and, of course, in Yemen. And they're talking about starting it in Sudan. More Predator drones dropping bombs on people. And the Pentagon says that if 100 innocent people are killed to get, quote, one bad guy, that is peace. And so Obama, the man of peace, aren't all of you Air America and Huffington Post people proud of yourselves? Well, of course you are. You loved it when Bill Clinton launched that UN war against the Serbs. And the Serbs were pretty vicious and engaged in a lot of atrocities. And I'm not Serb. I don't have a drop of Serb blood in me. But I'm sorry to tell you that the UN admits in its own reports that they knew that the Croats and Muslims killed roughly in that long conflict double what the Serbs did. It's called ethnic warfare. And so I do not support the Muslims or the Croats either. And I actually, one time in New York, about 6 years ago, the cab driver said, I am Albanian. After we were driving about 5 minutes, you are Alex Jones. Bill Clinton is God to us. Then I said, so he goes, yes, I know. You are with the Serbs. And I was just like, well, but it's admitted that you guys killed double and attacked the Serbs first. You know, after Tito died, the whole place broke up. It was under communist socialist control, and then it was destabilized. And you know, the whole war, and you guys were attacking the Serbs. And he's like, they need to die. They need to. And he goes, don't argue with me, or I will throw you out of cab. And I was like, well, you can go ahead and drop me off. Then he started smiling, acting nice, going, no, no, Americans do not know. Americans do not know. And he had blonde hair and blue eyes, too. But he was a Muslim. and he wanted to suck me into his Christian-Muslim fight. I don't want anybody killing each other. I'm tired of it. But I'm sorry. Don't tell me that Belgrade has to be bombed with DU weapons everywhere, and their TV stations, their water treatment, their factories that made peaceful aircraft and cars to be bombed because they wanted to be a sovereign country. And yes, they were in tribal warfare. And you can look at it from any angle and say who's bad. You can look at it from the Palestinian perspective and say Israel's bad. You can look at it from the Israeli perspective and say the Palestinians are bad. I don't have a dog in the hunt. I don't have a dog in the fight. I want my private property. I want my Second Amendment. I don't want my government flying around bombing all these countries constantly as we go bankrupt. It's real simple. So I'm not for the Muslims. I'm not for the Serbs. I'm not for Israel. I'm not for the Russians. I am not for any of these sides, any of these groups. I am for liberty. I am for freedom. I am for individuals of all those groups, black, white, old, young, German, Russian, Mexican, Venezuelan. I don't care. If you want freedom, then we are brothers and sisters in liberty. But if you don't like freedom, if you like collectivism and corporate globalism, I don't like you. I don't like the fruits of what you promote. You don't know what you're doing. Most of you are idiots who support globalism. All right, now I'm ranting. You tell me we have Tarpley? Is that what I'm... Thank you. I can see you guys even less when the lights are off. I was trying to remember why I like the lights on in there. It's because I can... It's like I get these hand signals usually, and I can't tell what's going on. But, hey, I don't blame you guys not wanting to sit under fluorescent lights. Those things are bad for you. I think we're going to put some track lighting in there is the answer. Okay, coming up, obviously, Dominique Strauss-Kahn. The case is falling apart, and it is a setup. Is that saying he's a good guy? No. He's a horrible globalist. But this is Sarkozy, who knows that Kahn's going to beat him in the election. The French are now saying he's surging even more in the polls that this came out, and he's going to probably be released soon and go back and become the next president of France. So we'll be talking about that. But I take you now to Tripoli, and we're showing pro-Gaddafi video right now from Libyan television that's up for a time, and it gets bombed routinely, but they get it back up. The phones go out routinely. And in this footage, you can, at one point, see Webster Griffin Tarpley. In fact, maybe we'll pause it when it gets to the part where you can see Webster there. There's maybe Yemenis TV broadcasting. Oh, this is live. This is live footage right now. Jaron saying he saw Tarpley earlier on the footage. Webster Griffin Tarpley, you are now joining us. Very brave to be there. Now nearing your second week in Libya, or about to end the first week. Webster, welcome.
Thank you very much, Alec.
These are gigantic crowds. It looks like, as a cursory view, 200,000 or more. How many people is that?
I think that's probably about right. It's in the hundreds of thousands. And the thing is, I'm here above Green Square. This is a vantage point at the edge of the old city of Tripoli, which goes back to the Roman Empire. So I'm up here with the press corps. We came on the press bus today, and there are easily tens of thousands right in this packed area right below us, where they're really having quite a time. They're chanting and dancing, and they're shooting off Kalashnikovs, Alex. Every now and then you hear a ripple of machine gun fire.
They're such slaves that they have 200,000 or looks like more people firing automatic weapons in the air. Can you imagine land of the free, home of the brave, what the government would do if 200,000 people tried to gather with Kalashnikovs in the capital? What would happen?
I don't know, but here it's also women, right? The demand for Kalashnikovs among women here is monumental. But let me just give you an idea of the setting. We're about 2 hours from the Mediterranean sunset, and the reason they have these demonstrations late in the day is what I'm feeling right now. The sun is still very strong, right? We're basically on the northern edge of the Sahara Desert. The Mediterranean is about half a mile away. So we're right here by this basin in the port of Tripoli. Right across from me is a building that goes back ultimately to about the 5th century A.D. It's Marcus Decimus Aurelius, one of the later Roman emperors, built this palace, and he built the walls to the old city. And then beyond that, you can see the minarets of the interior of the old city. Those came later, of course. Those came in the 700s and the 800s. And the place is packed, and it's green. It's a sea of green. They have got these green